This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
All right. For some reason, Stroz is making me talk hockey to start the segment.
I like how I'm making you.
Yeah, I didn't really
This
quite.
has been some of the biggest news in all of Detroit sports.
Well, and you know what's funny, Stroz, is this year is the first year in a long time. I'm not watching the Tigers every night, but I'm paying attention every night. And I feel like maybe it's a little premature. I feel like I'm seeing the signs of where that could start for the Red Wings. Because I don't have any idea what the trades mean. All I know is the Red Wings gained draft picks. And that's why shortly here we're going to bring on our hockey girl, Riley McPherson, to talk about it. But I am curious to hear what you guys have to say. I like seeing the Red Wings add draft picks because I know that they suck. So draft picks are a good thing. I've never heard of anybody involved in the trade except for Anthony Mantha. Mantha was like the number one prospect for the Wings when I stopped watching hockey. But believe me, when the Wings are good again, or at least have reasons to be excited, I'll probably be where I'm at with the Tigers. I'll at least be paying attention again. I'm just not there yet. So we are going to get in that in a second. We're also going to talk about a major aspect of my life has changed in the last 24 hours. It's a truly sad thing. We're going to get into that. And then also, it came out, I believe yesterday, an offer the Broncos had made for Matthew Stafford. I think we're both probably going to agree that offer was laughable, but there's a supposed counter offer by the Lions that we want to get into, whether we'd prefer that over what they did end up making with the Rams. But like I told you, we're going to bring in Riley McPherson to help us talk Red Wings because I sure as hell ain't going to do it. Stroz, I told you before the segment, I'm sitting here in a weighted blanket, so I'm going to take a nap. You guys can wake me up when this is over.
Riley, welcome to the show. For those of you who don't remember, Riley has been on this podcast before, writer for Overtime Hockey Heroes, or Overtime Heroic Hockey. I apologize. And really, truly, this is a segment for just me and you.
You're creating a video game.
This is just a segment for
Heroes.
This is just a segment for me and Riley. They just nap. Seriously, just nap. Sit right there.
I'll call you back in a few.
There you go. Riley, what was your reaction to basically the magic that Steve Yzerman pulled at the end of the trade deadline?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was funny because I was still looking. I was checking Twitter after the 3:00 window happened because I kept thinking, the trades could still come out, something could happen, and surely Yzerman will have made a move today because there were so many people who could be moved, and there were rumors about Mantha being one that'd get moved, but I didn't think it would actually happen because I thought no one would create an offer that would be that Yzerman would take. And so when also that came up, I got notifications of people being like, "Have you seen this?" It was just I was stunned. And it was before the draft picks had been announced. At that point, it had only been the players had been announced and then more. I was kind of okay, that's already a good haul. But if we get a first round draft pick for this is an absolute steal. And we got a first round and a second rounder. So it was an absolute fleecing by Steve Yzerman. I love the trade. Most people have agreed with that. I think Mantha has potential to be a fantastic player in Washington. Obviously better than he was here because of the pieces he's been playing with. Yesterday in that win that they had, he was on a line with Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, two players better than anyone in Detroit. So he's obviously going to benefit there. But it was a need of a change of scenery for Mantha. And one of the guys that the Red Wings got, it was a need of a change of scenery for him as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 110%. Were you sitting around over the weekend and basically leading up to the trade deadline, kind of scratching your head like, what the hell is Steve Yzerman doing? Because there were a couple of really minor trades that took place over the weekend. Ended up trading Brian Lashoff in a 3-team deal to the Blue Jackets, who I think won that trade. It was Blue Jackets and Lightning. Lightning got better as well. But the Red Wings only picked up a 4th-round pick. They traded Patrick Nemeth back to the Avalanche, who he played for, I believe, last year. And they got a 4th-round pick the following year. Then they traded John Merrill to the Canadiens. And look, I like Hayden Verbeek. I think he might be a piece. I'm not really sure. Young player. And they got a 5th-round pick. And that was pretty much what Steve Yzerman was doing. And I remember sitting at the bar on Saturday night, looking at a couple of my buddies that I play hockey with, and being like, what the hell is Steve Yzerman doing? Where is the trade? Where is this monumental trade? What is going on here? And like it's just like fourth round pick, fifth round pick.
I don't know anything about hockey to know that sounds exactly like you. just upset that nothing's happened yet. Like, dude, chill out. Things are gonna happen.
Well, it was like a bunch of little moves, and like I was just kind of like, where are we going here? And like, look, I think the Red Wings were hurt a little bit when Bobby Ryan was IR'd for the season, because I think that was a piece Steve Yzerman was looking to really hold teams accountable for and was going to force them to pay for. And then he goes down with an injury and he's sidelined for the rest of the season. So it was like, okay, when's that next move going to happen? And I think we were all, if you're a Red Wings fan, I think you were anticipating something and you were just kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop. And I think in this case, my impatience is what I was referencing, and that didn't come on. It just wasn't. I was ready to go on Saturday night.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was all small moves. I think there were definitely big pieces that people expected the Red Wings to move more than the ones they had before the trade deadline. Jonathan Bernier, people expected maybe to move. Luke Glendening was, believe it or not, the hot name that everyone was expecting the Red Wings to trade.
Well,
Mark Stahl was another one.
Dot. So, like, it makes sense, especially if you're a team that can't win faceoffs.
Oh, for sure. He's that big penalty killer faceoff winner that a contender could actually need, but isn't necessarily needed in Detroit when you're not a contender, when you have so many other things. But, you're expecting a move like that to happen. And so it was the little moves like, okay, I didn't expect Nemeth to be traded, but hey, you got a fourth rounder for him. And Yzerman tends to do good things with fourth rounders. And then the Blashoff deal is an interesting one because Blashoff's still staying in Grand Rapids the rest of the year. And then the Red Wings are just taking on 25% of Savard's contract, the guy who got traded to Tampa from Columbus. And the Red Wings got a fourth round pick basically for an AHLer who's never hardly played at all in the NHL. That was amazing to me that Yzerman went and pulled that. It's a weird mess, and I still need to understand the full rules of why Brian Lashoff gets to stay in Grand Rapids for the rest of the season. I'm not even going to pretend that, but those first couple deals, while they weren't exciting deals, was like, hey, he's getting something. And the fifth rounder for Merrill, again, Merrill was one that you kind of expected might move just because he did sign the short deal at the end in the offseason. But you were expecting the Bernier move. You were expecting the Glendening move, the Mark Stahl move, maybe a Sam Gagner move, and just none of those happened. But out of nowhere, 15 minutes after the deadline was over, oh, hey, they just moved one of their potential, cornerstones that they've been keeping around for a long time. He's gone now. He's gone just like that, but you got a massive haul for him.
Joining the practice squad is Riley McPherson. Follow her on Twitter at Riley J. McPherson. Writer for Overtime Heroic Hockey, as well as the host of the Great Lakes Sports Takes. I'm sorry. I'm messing everything up today. I'm way off.
Stroz,
I've had like four cups. I've had four cups of coffee. I've been going since 5 o'clock this morning.
Oh, not the coffee again.
I will tell you, I was thinking about jumping in just to reset who was with us, and you took care of that. I mean, you failed where she does her work, but still.
I totally messed it up, but it's okay. So did you happen to hear the Steve Yzerman post-trade press conference at all, Riley?
I heard a bit of it, yeah. I didn't get to listen to the entire thing straight through, but
am I right to try to read between the lines with what Steve Yzerman was saying? Because Steve Yzerman doesn't basically tell you everything you want to know. He's really great at saying, hey, look over here, but he's talking about stuff that's way over here.
Yeah.
What I got out of this press conference is, if you're a Red Wings fan, you need to be much more patient than what you already were expected to be. This
directly to you, Stroz.
This rebuild is going to take much longer than he anticipated. Is that kind of what you got out of it, or no?
I don't know if longer than he anticipated, but I think maybe longer than the fans anticipated. I think there was probably some fans who thought maybe by even next year this team would be competing again or something. And based on some of the Red Wings fans' reaction, there were definitely some people who were like, "Wait, how do you trade this piece for that exact reason?" They're expecting to compete next year, even though this team is still the third worst team in the NHL right now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he necessarily is going slower than what he expected, but I think certain fans could be longer for them.
So what is the window? As someone who has, I want you to understand, I'm not going to just jump entirely out of a segment just because. I am so out on the Red Wings, I genuinely don't know if I could name 5 players. What is the window when I should start to look to care about the Red Wings again? Because flat out, I'm not interested when they suck.
I would say it's at least 3 seasons from now, because you look at the 2 guys who should be the cornerstones of this franchise going forward. there are two guys who aren't even in the NHL yet. One of them is currently playing in the playoffs in the Swedish Hockey League. The other one would be playing in the playoffs if he hadn't got hurt during the year, and that's Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond. Neither of them are there yet. And as good as I think they could be their rookie years, coming up next year, it will take time before they are elite players. And I think it won't be until those guys have reached that potential or starting to reach that potential that the team itself will be competing again. So that could be a few years still. I think minimum 3 years is what you're going to have to wait before you're watching the Red Wings on a somewhat daily basis.
Well, I don't even need to be watching them. Like I said, I'm watching I've probably watched 12 to 15 innings of Tigers baseball, but I'm paying attention. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly looking to see how they're doing. And I'd love to be there with the Wings again.
Oh, absolutely. And they'll get there at some point. Just we got to wait for those big names to come up. You got some of the other younger guys who have been performing this season. Philip Zadina's been excellent this year. He hasn't quite put the points. He's gotten very unlucky with some of his scoring chances this year, but he's become one of the better defensive forwards on this team and a great presence in the forecheck, which is something that people didn't expect. So if you're seeing players like Zadina grow like that, it's promising for the other young guys who have more potential to, when they come up, to be able to improve their games the way that Zadina has.
So you mentioned two cornerstone pieces, which leads me to this. In the last couple of days, I've been very outward about my stance on this particular player. How do you feel about Dylan Larkin, and what do you feel his ceiling is?
I mean, I think Larkin is going to be a very good player for a long time. I don't think he'll ever reach elite stats or any stretch of the imagination. I think he could top out being, in his best years, a 70-point a season guy, which is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's a very, very important piece. But I don't think he's ever going to be the top scorer on a contender. I don't think he'll ever be the best forward on a contender. He can be a leader as a captain, and maybe he will keep the C for a long time, and that's what we'll see in Detroit. But when he finally gets more offensive pieces around him, keep in mind, Tyler Bertuzzi, who had such a hot start, he still hasn't played pretty much his entire year. Larkin's been separated from Mantha most of the year for similar reasons. He has not had a lot to work with in terms of an offensive partnership. So I think he could be a 70-point guy when he has all the pieces there playing with him. When he has Bertuzzi back, when he has Raymond potentially playing with him, or Zadina's playing full-time with him. I think that could absolutely happen where he is that good, but not anything crazy where he's, a 90, 100-point a season guy.
Yeah, and I think that's probably high end for him. And I'm going to agree with you, 70-point guy a season, probably where he maxes out at. I feel like with Larkin, he's sometimes a little bit lazy. I don't know. There are things there's a lot of stuff I just don't like about him. Mm-hmm. You brought up Tyler Bertuzzi. How much has this team missed Tyler Bertuzzi? And is Bertuzzi the best player on this team?
I don't know if I'll quite go that far. They have definitely missed him for sure. Mm-hmm. And, he got out to the hot start. He was almost a point a game to start the year. I think it was 7 points in 9 games or something like that to start the year. If I remember correctly, 7 points in 9 games, 5 goals in the first 9 games of the season, coming off a career year last year where he made the All-Star team. Granted, it was, the pity All-Star vote because the Red Wing had to be in it. But still, he was the player who deserved it at the time last year. And he got up to the hot start. Things were looking good. And you're missing a guy who has both grit and scoring ability. You don't really have that. Mantha was your next closest thing. And Mantha's not necessarily gritty. He just occasionally will get into a fight because he's 6'5". And then he gets hurt doing it because that's what he'd done multiple times before this year. And Yzerman told him to stop for that very reason. But I want to see what they're going to do with Bertuzzi going forward as well. Because keep in mind, he filed for arbitration last year and signed his contract through that. And obviously, there's an expansion draft coming up next year as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Because Mantha was one of the two of them who got the long-term deal. Bertuzzi didn't. And now Mantha's the one being traded at the deadline while Bertuzzi is still out hurt.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with the expansion draft as well. We'll get you out of here on this one. Thomas Greiss was a guy that I was excited when the Wings signed in the offseason. I thought he was a guy that could add some stability to the very back of a defensive unit that I didn't think was going to be very, very good. And the defensive unit that's played in front of him has been very, very good. Has Thomas Greiss's struggles been more on him as a goaltender or on the defense that's in front of him?
So I think it's a combination because I think Greiss has been extremely streaky this year. He'll have a couple games in a row where he looks like, oh, yeah, this is the guy who looked so good in New York last couple of years. And then I'll have moments where even the defense, it's not their fault. He just completely is in a horrible position or just flat out misses a puck. So I think it's a bit of both, because there are those games where he just does not get the help that he needs. He's got the lowest goal support in the entire league as well. That does not help. I think he's only averaging like 1.7 goals scored per game when he's a starting goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings. By far the worst in the league. No other goalie is under 2. But he just has those games where you're just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, how are you a starting NHL netminder? Because you don't look like it with the play you just made, where you were just standing, whatever. Because that's something that we saw a lot when Peter Mrazek was in Detroit. You'd see those moments where you're just like, dude, why are you there? And Greiss, you get those from time to time as well this year. And it is a bit frustrating to see. So I think it's a mix of both. And we'll see what the team does going forward, because obviously he's the only one of the 2 starting goaltenders who's under contract for next season.
Riley, thanks for joining us to talk Red Wings, because without you, Stroz would be hosting a solo podcast for 15 minutes.
I would be talking to a wall.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. You can find Riley on Twitter at Riley J. McPherson. Again, she writes for Overtime Heroics Hockey and is the host of Great Lakes Sports Takes. Thank you once again, Riley.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
I'm glad one of us got all your stuff right.
Yes, thank you, Brendan, very, very much. I appreciate it.
Riley, take it easy. Thanks for coming on.
You guys too. Thank you.
All right, again, we're going to be talking coming up here shortly about a potential trade the Lions, I don't want to, I guess, could have made an offer that they gave to the Denver Broncos, and compare that to how we feel about the trade they ultimately did make, sending Stafford to Los Angeles. But first, Stroz. I'm so interested in this topic we're about to do, and particularly after the, we'll say, morning, afternoon I had. So, as I've talked about at times on this podcast, I've started to enjoy watching people stream video games. And I watch way more TV or movies than I watch people stream video games, but I do watch people stream, and I think it's a lot like listening to your favorite podcast or listening to a radio station and, get to know these personalities. Well, one streamer I enjoy goes by the name of Ludwig. It's actually his real name, which most streamers don't go by. But anyways, he just finished yesterday a 31-day subathon. What does that mean? It means he has been live for 31 consecutive days. And that means nonstop. When he was sleeping, he was live. When he was cooking and eating, he was live. Now, obviously, he walked off stream to shower or go to the bathroom. But aside from minor things like that, his life has been live on Twitch for 31 days. Stroz, you know what happened 30 or 29 days ago?
You found this and you started watching?
I had surgery.
Oh.
And it's a streamer I enjoy.
So this has become part of your life for roughly the last month.
Basically the length of my surgery. And the thing is, or my surgery recovery is a better way to put it. But, I haven't gotten too deep into it, and we won't. But the surgery recovery process has been very difficult. Mm-hmm. It's a simple surgery, and I was able to get back to doing normal things relatively quickly, but I wasn't pain-free. In fact, I'm still not pain-free. And Tuesday marked a month since surgery. Now, I'm doing a lot better, but it's mentally taxing when you're a month after surgery and you're still in pain, and I didn't even know what was wrong with me for the first week. So it was a really difficult, in all seriousness, without breaking down the details, Stroz, the last 5 weeks to 6 weeks of my life have probably been, if I were going to go through some of the hardest periods of time in my life, my mom passing away, the 5 or 6 weeks, after that, my major breakup, long time after that, those couple of things. Aside from those two things, I can't think of any other period in my life of, 5-6 weeks that were as tough as these last 5-6 weeks. And, it's funny because I really like this streamer, but he's not even my favorite. But just the reliability, knowing that he was on and that I could turn on his stream at any time. And sometimes it was boring and I turned it off. But in a weird way, it became a safety blanket of my recovery process. Mm-hmm. And what was funny, and when we planned this topic, this had not happened yet. But as I was driving to work this morning, I was trying to figure out, why am I sad today? There's nothing in particular that made me feel like that was standing out. I felt sad driving into work. And I realized it was that the subathon was over. It was that this, entertainer who I liked, that it was over. And I gotta say, I think I would have felt that a little bit either way, but the last few minutes of it were so emotional. He was talking about how, like, 2 years ago he watched Ninja, another streamer, play with Drake and have hundreds of thousands of people watching him. And he's thinking, like, man, I want to be that. And he was talking about how it was really nice for him to do this because whenever he's away from streaming, he thinks about how, like, one day he'll hit end stream and, like, that'll be the last time. And how it was, like, really nice for him to, like, for a month, he said it was like a month-long sleepover. He got to wake up and go do what he loves the most. And it was just, like, a really emotional, like, you could tell that he was fighting crying. And so, like, obviously I don't really know this person, but, like, in a sense, you feel like you have a relationship with this person.
Well, for sure. You just spent 30 days with him.
Yeah, he's been there. No matter when I turn him on, whether he's sleeping, playing chess, playing Among Us, playing whatever, I can always turn. And sometimes he's just hanging out talking. Or you know what I really liked watching him do, Stroz? This might sound funny. I love watching him cook. And you know why? It's because he's a 25-year-old kid who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. One of the funniest things I ever saw him do over the course of these 31 days, I don't know what he was cooking, but he had something on the stovetop, right? And he pours in some alcohol. I don't know what it is. He lights it on fire. He put way too much alcohol in. Fire blew up in his face, and you could see, like, how genuine, like, the fear in his face was. He just turns to the camera and he goes, "We're okay." And it was so amazing. And it was just, I feel like I've lost this friend who was there for me 24/7 over the course of a really difficult month.
So I have some questions here. It's more about how the stream took place and what happened. So was he, like, obviously he's cooking, so he's not videotaping himself. Does he have cameras set up around his house, or is somebody following him around?
No, it's very personal. Like, he would literally just use a phone.
Okay.
He would just, like, he has cameras in his room, his stream room, where he's playing games normally.
Right.
But like, what would happen is when he would switch to, like, cooking stream, he'd switch to his cell phone, and he'd just put his cell phone somewhere in the kitchen. And he'd do workout streams the same way. Like, he'd just take his cell phone around the house to stream with. Okay.
And then, like, obviously when he goes to shower, you're not going in the shower with him. So, like, are you just sitting on the bathroom counter?
No. You wouldn't even go, like, so there's a lot of things like that where you could argue maybe his whole life wasn't on camera for these 31 days.
Well, that's like, my next question is, like, I'm assuming he had sex. How? Like, Twitch isn't going to allow that, right?
Wait, why are you assuming he had sex? Do you assume the average streamer has sex at least once a month? Because I don't know that I believe that.
Well, I don't know. I just kind of go by me, I guess. And, like,
I'm going to say he probably did. So he had a date night within the context, and this wasn't on stream. So there were 2 times that I'm aware of that he left the stream for, like, at least a few hours at a time. Okay. And what he did, this dude's a big streamer. Like, after this subathon, he now has more subscribers. And that's the whole idea. The way it worked is every time someone subscribed, it added time to how long he had to be on. Mm-hmm. He just put a cap at 31 days. In fact, when he started it, it was funny because when he started it, it got up to like 3 or 4 days instantly because so many people subscribed. And he said when it started, he goes, "I expected this to go a day or 2. I miscalculated." So after, like, it went crazy and the clock went super high, he goes, "You know what? I'm going to put a cap of 31 days on it." So, like, he didn't even plan on doing this. But anyways, so one time he left because he had a trip planned to go visit his girlfriend's parents who lived somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So he had 30 hours where he was totally gone. And for those 30 hours, because he's a big streamer, like, he has a big team. He has 15, 20 moderators. So he just had his, like, number 1 moderator who lives with him. Like, they share a house. He had him stream for those 30 hours.
Okay.
So, and then the other time was literally, like, maybe 20 days in, to get him and his girlfriend, like, he left for a few hours to go have a date. Those are the only 2 times I'm aware of that he left for more than, 10 or 15 minutes at a time. So he did, break it a little bit. But the point is his stream was live 24/7. And like, the guys who came on, it would be like back in the Big Drew and Jim days. Like, if Big Drew and Jim were gone, I was there or you were there, like, Slime is the name of, like, his, like, number 1 moderator who lives with him. like you know him as a part of the Ludwig stream, if that makes sense.
Right. Yep.
So there was still somebody there in front of the camera.
Makes total sense.
As far as, by the way, as far as like
30
the shower,
days of straight content nonstop.
31
That's
days.
Insane. 31 days. That's freaking bananas.
And as far as like showering, so if he knew he was going to be away for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, he'd put on a long YouTube video.
Okay.
And that makes same thing like when he was sleeping. And so when this first started, I watched a couple streams like for 15, 20 minutes at a time while he was sleeping, just because it was interesting to me. The idea was interesting. As it went further on, I stopped because, you know, I'm not here to watch the man sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But what they would do is like 75% of the stream was literally just him sleeping. And then like in the right corner, bottom right corner, they'd have a separate screen where they'd be playing media share videos. People could pay money to have their video show on his stream.
Oh, wow.
Max of like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But so like that's what they would do throughout the night. They'd also do what they called modcasts, where all of his moderators would just hang out and talk while videos played.
That's interesting. That's a cool. It's like that's really cool because it's a way to, one, monetize what you're doing. Two, you get to introduce an audience to new people by them paying to show their videos. On top of that, you get to introduce your moderators to your audience, which also helps get them followers. So that's actually really, really cool.
I'm confident. So he did a breakdown about a week in, because people were talking about the absurd amount of money that he was making.
Mm-hmm.
So a sub on Twitch cost $5. Over the course of the subathon, he gained 240,000 subs. He had 30,000 before it started.
Wow.
So, you know, you break it down, that's $1.2 million.
Yeah.
But a weekend, he had broke it down.
Bro, we're doing life all wrong.
Well, so Stroz, a segment we talked about here, and I find this really interesting. I have a firm belief you would be a great streamer. Like, I know you're not a big video game guy, but, I think it's so similar to radio and podcast. It's all about personality. And this guy's a great example of being about personality. So a lot of streamers, like, play one game. And their audience finds them because they love that game, and their audience stays because they love that game. Ludwig is what's known as a variety streamer. And variety streamers exist, but variety streamers tend to struggle to be very big because their audience, you know, I want to watch Fortnite. I want to watch Among Us. If you're not playing those games, I generally don't watch you. Ludwig is a variety streamer. He plays chess, he plays Valorant, he plays Among Us, he plays Pokemon. He's really big. Something he does that, like, he's kind of changed Twitch in a way. He's really big on just doing conversations. Like, he'll hop on and he'll rank the best hamburgers. And he'll spend 2 hours talking about the best hamburgers. And like, he's kind of changed
I feel
Twitch
like that would be so much fun. I feel like that would be incredible to do.
Stroz, I think you would do a really good job at it. I think that when it comes to, so like radio and podcasting, I think that there's a little more, I'm trying to how to put this. Personality is huge, obviously, but I think it's a little bit more technical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like remembering to reset that we're on with Riley.
Right, and not mess it up.
And stuff like that, and teasing what you're doing next. Because streaming is something that's done over such a long period of time, it's just not like that. Like, streaming is putting a camera on you and being who you are. And I think the people who do it best are the people who are just them, and they're gonna be them, whether you like it or not, and they're just like, they're gonna own it. And I think that is something you excel at so well. I genuinely, like, I have all the faith in the world that if you wanted to stream, you could kill it. Now, you don't play video games very much to my knowledge. So that part might be a little bit difficult.
That'd be a little bit tough. It'd be like me just doing real life. Me playing with a dog and me cooking.
And people do that. Now, I think it might be hard to build your audience doing that. But it's funny because, like, we were going to do, like, this is another topic we talked about. Like, there's a content creator, a Twitch streamer I like by the name of Nick Merckx. Mm-hmm. And he reminds me so much of you. I think you two are very similar. And just, like, you don't give a fuck. You know, I sent you a video yesterday. The man's just
that was a fun video. I watched like 5 times actually.
So what all that's happening in the video is he's playing the game, right? But he's playing Warzone with teammates. And they're like screaming at him, Nick! And he's just dancing to his music, ignoring them. In fact, he's got them muted. He can't even hear them because he's listening to his music. I was like, this is so Stroz. Like, he'd just be doing his own thing, playing games with friends. They need him because they're dying. And you're just like, whatever, man. I'm just vibing.
Like, there was a point where one of his buddies in front of him got blown up. and he's just laughing.
And he can't even hear him.
Right.
But dude, no, I mean, I don't even know where to go with this from here because like they're two different topics. But dude, it's just like I was genuinely sad today. Like it affected my day, and it might for a little while.
I think the original topic that we were going to kind of spin with this, and I think the setup has probably taken longer than the actual conversation.
I don't even know what the topic
about it.
What was the topic?
I think it was like what is that small something that you missed, that you grew accustomed to, and then you
That's
missed.
Right.
It.
I forgot I asked that question.
Yeah.
My bad.
So dude, it was a great setup. It was.
I honestly, I literally forgot we had a question ready because you sent the rundown before we had the question.
Yes.
So I was looking at the rundown.
This was something that we put together early in the morning.
Well, it's funny because I was looking at the rundown, and I do. And the rundown is like, it helps me remember what we're going to do. It's like, we're not doing that. So I teased the topic and forgot we had a question. So that's my fault. My small thing that became a big part of my life was Ludwig's Twitch stream. Stroz, what was yours? 20 minutes deep into the segment.
So I think for me, and like I kind of had to do a deep dive to really think about like what was that one small thing that you really became like a fabric of your life over a course of however long. And I think for me, and this is really, really current now because me and a couple of my buddies are getting one of our teams back together. But it was playing hockey with my friends. I played on multiple different leagues on different nights, and it's just being in that locker room with those guys. No, it was roller hockey.
That's fine. I just did. For some reason, I couldn't picture you on ice skates.
I'm not great, but hey, don't look. I'm working on setting up an ice hockey team. We're planning to play in the fall, so I will have all kinds of stories for the podcast about.
Are you going to be the kind of person who stops by just turning around and doing a circle?
I'm going to be the guy who's going to basically run into the boards. You remember Mighty Ducks?
Around, just keep going.
Remember Mighty Ducks? What was it, Luis Mendoza? You couldn't stop. Like I'm not fast. I'm not fast, but I can't stop.
Entirely unrelated to the topic. I've been ice skating 3 or 4 times, and I love it. It's so fun. But the first time I went, I was, I think, a sophomore in high school, and you had, like, Stroz, it's funny. God, can we do this podcast for 2 hours? Because I have 2 different stories I want to talk about.
Whatever you want, man.
I've just gotten a lot more loose with this podcast lately. So when I was in high school...
This is the best B, by the way. Loose B is the best B.
So when I was in high school, I had something that I think probably came off as confidence, but in reality, all it was I grew up with large groups of friends. I always felt like I belonged. Like I never had to like search for that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't realize when I looked stupid. And so like, I just was like, the first time I went skating, I was like, I'm going to hard stop like they do in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I tried, I got it going as fast as I could, tried to like hard stop on 2 feet rather than slow down. Cause I was pretty good at slowing down. I just fucking ate it and slid like the length of the ice on my ass.
Yep.
And by the way, the second story, I'll keep it short. The reason I brought that up, I was thinking about it the other day. There's this girl senior year who I dated for a couple months, and she like told me several times, like she's like, you're so confident, like you don't give a shit about what anybody thinks. You wear sweatpants to school every day, like you don't even do your hair. Like she liked that. Because it was confidence.
You're like, I'm just comfortable and lazy.
And I was like, what? That's not confident. Like, I didn't, at the time, I was like, that's fucking awesome. Like, she was like super vocal about like how she liked that about me. And now in retrospect, I realized it wasn't confidence. I just didn't realize those things mattered. I didn't realize people don't wear sweatpants. Like, I didn't notice that other people didn't wear sweatpants to school every day. Because I always felt like I belonged in high school. So, like, I never did anything. Like, I just fucking went to school and did my thing.
Right.
That changed as I got a little bit older, unfortunately. In fact, I'd actually tell you it changed mostly after my long-term breakup. You get into a 6-year relationship while you're in that phase. Like, you don't have anyone to impress anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but I wanted to share those things.
Those are great stories. Those are great stories.
I'm sorry. So hockey's your thing. You're getting your thing back.
It's more just being in that locker room with those guys sharing. I don't want to even call them intimate moments, But
no, call them that,
whatever those moments
you fucking call them that.
Whatever those moments are.
You don't want to call them that because you're uncomfortable with it, but clearly you brought it up, so they are.
No, I mean, like I don't know. For some reason, so like, me and you are both huge proponents of therapy, right?
Yeah.
So I do some pretty intense therapy trying to get myself right because I'm all sorts of fucked up. I do what's called EMDR, and EMDR, you basically follow a light back and forth on a light bar, and it's supposed to help untap some fucked up memories that you got.
My
that really
therapist actually mentioned that recently. It's a trauma based therapy.
Yeah,
it's supposed to help with. She said it works really well from what she said.
It's fucking great. It's great.
I mean, I don't, that's not what I do, but she said it does really well.
I've come a long way doing it. So like I'm totally fucked up now, but like you should have seen me a while ago. Anyways, so when you have it can be really emotional when you do these things, right? And sometimes when you come out of it, you need to have like a safe spot saved in your mind, right? And my safe spot was always the hockey locker room, just because I felt so insulated with those guys. And just like I said, it's not necessarily like they're intimate memories or they're intimate moments, but they're special.
I'm kind of jealous. You know, mine is a dude who I don't actually know, who's in his stream. I mean, there were 240,000 people watching yesterday. Like, I don't know this guy, and like, I think they're similar in a way. Yours is just better, because what they are is they're like, it's human interaction, right? Like, it's I get that. Like, I can see how like I miss sports. Growing up, I was playing. I mean, I played organized sports from kindergarten until college. I played flag football every single year I was in college. And then when I bowled through college too, I would kill to have a bowling league again. And I think hockey is probably even better than that. So it's funny because I get why your reaction was to think that it was this like one small thing that was really big. But for me, from the outside looking in, I look at mine as a small thing. Like, mine's a fucking TV show, basically. Yours is like getting to have a locker room with your friends, like, you know, getting to have that environment. Like, that's huge. I think that's life-changing kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I still have like I'm still friends with all these guys, and we're all in group messages. It's just it's not the same. That's all.
No,
so like it's not
totally
like you know I lost it all, but I lost that and again I'm using the word intimate. I lost that intimacy of what that hockey locker room was.
No, I feel that. All right, we're gonna move on from therapy session middle segment. I honestly feel like I did a much better job not derailing that than I could have. We could have taken this a long way.
We could spend the rest of the show on this if you want.
No. I think the next conversation is interesting. So obviously we know what the Lions traded Matt Stafford for. You know, they got 2 first-round draft picks and a third. Correct? I'm like second guessing myself. And a third-round draft pick.
Yep.
There was a report that came out this week that the Denver Broncos had offered a number 9, the first overall or the first round pick, number 9, for Matt Stafford and the Lions second. Now, we don't need to spend too much time on that part. That's comical, right? You would have been pissed if that's the offer that they took. Yeah, number 9's appealing, but Stafford for a 30 pick swap would have been a joke. Now, the Lions supposedly countered with an offer that I think merits discussion, and that was Drew Lock, number 9, a third-round pick, and an unnamed player, which unfortunately is hard to judge what that means. We'll just say that player is unimportant. So number 9, Drew Lock, and a third-round pick for Matt Stafford. And I think it's an interesting discussion to at least have. Like, how would you have felt if that was the deal they made?
So I think what this comes down to for, I think, just about everybody, including you and me, is how do you value Drew Lock? Like, what do you think Drew Lock's high-end potential is? Because
I'm not a fan. Because you're right. That is an interesting part of the question.
Because like I'm not sold on Drew Lock. I'm not. He's not. No, just like no, right? So I like getting 9. I like getting the number 9 pick, and I like getting possibly the extra player, especially if it's a wide receiver. I like how you're raising your hand in the chat. What is going on there? Do you have a question?
I just realized it
you in the front. Actually, you're the only one here.
I just realized it was a feature, so I did it. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract you. I mean, I didn't distract you, but
like if the other person was, I don't know, possibly a wide receiver who was worth a shit, I might be interested in that too. But no, I don't. I think what the Lions ended up getting is arguably the best that you could have got, right? You have a quarterback, you have your bridge quarterback in Jared Goff, whether you believe he's the bridge or not. You have, you picked up extra first round picks, which I think is what made that deal worth it for everybody. And I think the Lions have set themselves, we also picked up an extra third round pick. I think the Lions have set themselves up and put themselves in a really nice spot for the next couple of years. So I don't think the counter was necessarily worth it.
So I'll say this. I think that in hindsight, it's an entirely different discussion. If they had made that deal and we never knew the Rams offer was on the table, I think I think I would have been fine with that. The number 9 overall pick is that's a pretty valuable pick. Drew Lock, I probably would have viewed similarly to Jared Goff. Now his contract would have been less restrictive. That's important to keep in mind.
And the whole reason the Lions ended up getting the extra picks were because of Goff's contract.
But that's the thing. So Drew Lock, you wouldn't have had the restrictive contract.
Exactly.
I would have looked at him also like a transitional quarterback. I wouldn't have wanted him to be the guy. But you could make the case that 9 is worth more than 2 firsts that will likely both be playoff firsts. And they both had a third included. So it would have been a good deal. I don't know. When I first heard this, my gut said I preferred the Rams offer. I kind of think it's a coin flip. Because
as we work our way through it, it sounds like it's a better, and it's all because of the quarterback, right? It's because the contract for Drew Lock is so much more manageable.
Well, and the thing is, the contract's not that big a deal. You don't want them to be major free agent spenders. But the point is, I think you could make the case pick 9 this year is worth more than a playoff first next year and a playoff first the year after that. Now, those firsts aren't guaranteed to be playoff first, but we expect them to be. I also think 7 and 9, if you want to go and get a quarterback this year, you're telling me, so you're not getting up to Lawrence. You're not getting up to whoever the Jets take, which most people are saying right now is Zach Wilson. But I think you could have gotten up to 3 instead of the 49ers. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think 7 and 9 would have been more appealing than what the Niners gave up, which was what, 3 firsts? But those are going to be very, very late firsts. And maybe I'm wrong, but I just tend to think 7 and 9 could have gotten you, and any quarterback but Trevor Lawrence and probably whoever the Jets take. And if you didn't go that route, imagine the Lions coming out of this draft with 2 of the top 10 players. That's a lot.
That's crazy. So I agree with you 100%. And man, I don't know. The more we work through this, I don't know. Like you said, it's a coin flip. It really is a coin flip.
It doesn't matter because this is not the deal the Broncos offered. But I think it's worth gauging it because Brad Holmes offered this in return, right? So how do we feel about the counter that Brad Holmes made? And I got to tell you, I think the counter he made lines up really well with the deal he got, which if anything, I'm not trying to, by no means was my intention here to make this a love up on Brad Holmes topic. But I think if anything, it says he understood the value of his quarterback. It tells me that he knew the market value because the counter that he made to the Broncos was damn similar to the deal he got from the Rams.
Yeah, no, and I think if you're a Detroit Lions fan, that should make you feel pretty good. That's a guy. Nice. It's a guy who understands what he has. It's a guy who can. It shows that he can evaluate talent, which is something that I think we've thrown flags at the general managers before.
Hold on, it doesn't show you can evaluate talent at all. That doesn't mean anything. There's no. It shows that
he understands what the talent. He understands what the fair market value of his. It
shows he can understand the perception of talent.
Okay,
it shows that.
Fair.
I mean, those are very different things.
Right. No, you're right. You're right.
How the league sees Matt Stafford.
Right.
And was able to get the most out of that.
Right.
Now, one question about the Denver, counter offer worth considering. Neither of us love Drew Lock, but compare Drew Lock and Jared Goff. I would have viewed them as transitional quarterbacks, but I'm willing to let both guys get the chance to earn it, right? I kind of think if we're going to look at it from there, I believe Jared Goff is more likely to prove me prove me wrong than Drew Lock ever was. Like, I think Jared Goff has gone to a Super Bowl, while I don't think he was the reason.
Right. Here's the thing. Jared Goff has, in his short career, has won more than Drew Lock has in his even shorter career. So I think that's why you can make that statement and why you can feel comfortable and confident that Jared Goff's going to probably be the better version of whichever that bridge or transitional quarterback will be for the Detroit Lions. So I think that's a fair point. And
I think you can make the case, though, that the ceiling is higher for Drew Lock because he is so young.
I mean, but can you, though? Like, I feel like Drew Lock, to me, seems like a guy who doesn't... I don't think he is sure what he has to offer. Do you know what I'm saying?
I love when you do this. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to argue.
Have you read any of the things coming out of Denver? Like, I've read a couple of the things coming out of Denver, and it sounds like that locker room is really divided on Drew Lock and what Drew Lock's abilities are, and it sounds like he kind of gets in his own way of his own success. So I don't know if his ceiling is higher. I'm not willing to say that.
I think Jared Goff's ceiling is mediocre, good enough to be your starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think we're too early in Drew Lock's career. While I don't like him, to say that like, I think the ceiling on Jared Goff is very low. I think he could prove me wrong to the extent that, like, maybe he's good enough to be a starter, but, like, I really think that's his ceiling. And if he takes the job down the road, it should be paid like he's a high-end backup. You know, it should be a Ryan Fitzpatrick deal for a dude who's not even 30. But at the end of the day, that difference between Drew Lock and Jared Goff is almost negligible. The only thing that would have really mattered is that you would have left yourself more cap room, which, again, not really that big a deal. So the question comes down to, do you prefer 9 or do you prefer 2 future firsts? And I think it's a pretty close deal.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. They're basically neck and neck. So I agree. And like you said, this is one of those things where Denver didn't offer that. So I think this is just another feather in Brad Holmes' cap, because it shows that he's
that original offer.
So I guess here's the thing.
You're loving all up on the Detroit regime. How would you have felt if that was the deal they made?
I wouldn't have liked it, because my whole thing was, if I put myself back when we were discussing all of this, my whole thing was he had to get multiple first round picks, right? He had to at least get a first round pick from Matt Stafford. Plus. Yes. So his counter to Denver is fine, or is where, like, what made the trade with the Rams so enticing was the extra first round picks that you got. That's what made that what it was. So I know that no. How about no?
Well, I mean, you're very into this regime, so that would have been an interesting episode, because it would have been quite the knock. But you like hearing he didn't do it. You like hearing the counter was on the right place. And I guess we don't really need to dig a whole lot deeper in this. I thought it was worth talking about. But we're kind of in lockstep, I think, on the whole conversation. Before we wrap, what do I need to do to get you streaming video games? I'm trying to do it for the betterment of your life, Stroz.
Of my life.
I know you don't play video games, but I'm telling you would be good at it, and I think you would love the audience that you would inevitably build.
So here's the thing. I don't have my PlayStation 5 yet. So I've got a PS3. Nobody wants to watch anybody play any games on PS3.
No one wants to watch anyone play any games on PS5. Get a PC, you loser.
I don't know if I want to get a new computer and soup this thing up.
Didn't you just hear me break down how Ludwig was making millions of dollars?
I did. And that makes me interested.
You don't want to make millions of dollars to talk to people and play video games all day?
That would be so great.
You must really love your job. I'm sorry, I didn't understand how much you love your job. Let's good. We'll set it off on that.
What's the most popular video game out there right now? So, like, I know you love Fortnite, but, like, what's the one? Are they like first person shooters? Are they adventure games?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if there is currently a dominating game. I'm going to go to Twitch right now while we record this real quickly and let me see what the most popular games are. I think there are a couple that stay really high. You know what? Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5 is number 1 right now. And that is because people are doing Grand Theft Auto roleplay. People are going into the same online worlds and playing characters, and people love it. So right now, that is game number 1. Game number 2, Stroz, just chatting. That's not a game. That means people get on Twitch and just talk. And by the way, these are most popular.
Like, see, I think I would be good at that. Like, that would be fun, because I'll talk to you about whatever. I don't care.
Do it then. I mean, you got to be able to talk for hours at a time by yourself. But, like, maybe that's what we do. Maybe we move this to Twitch. I don't know if 1 hour once a week would be enough for that to matter. But after that, League of Legends, Minecraft, Warzone, Fortnite. It's mostly shooters. Because then you go Warzone, Fortnite, Valorant, Apex. Rocket League's up there, Counter-Strike. 2K is a lot higher than I would have realized. But there's all sorts of games that you can play. Ludwig streams a lot of chess.
That's crazy to me that people want to watch some guy play chess.
I'm telling you, man. I am telling you, streaming is the same damn thing as radio. It is the same thing, except you do it for way more hours.
It's interesting. Maybe we do move this to Twitch. I don't know. It could be fun.
We have to do it.
I think it'd be great just to interact with people, like us do a show, just us talk about. It could be about man stuff, or it could be about like
not do sports.
Yeah, like about we could be talking seriously. We could talk about this damn stapler I'm holding right now.
Well, I'm not talking about a stapler.
No, we'll talk about whatever. I don't care. It don't matter to me. Talk about whatevs. But I think that would be interesting.
I just think you would do really well at it, and I want to see you thrive, Stroz. I want to see you thrive. That's gonna do it for this episode. I don't do this as much lately, but if you want to interact with the show at all and anything we've talked about, at Adam R. Stroz on Twitter.